Hi, everyone. My name is Jillian Haun. I'm with the Beauty Project. My intention with the Beauty Project is to connect with people about what beauty is to them and what it is that makes them beautiful. I've been interviewing people specifically in the beauty industry about these questions. Thank you so much for joining me today. I actually have the tables turned talking to my good friend Karen Isaacson, and she is interviewing me about what beauty is to me and what it is that makes me beautiful and all the things that make me who I am. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
I'm Karen, and I know Jillian from some really wonderful experiences that we have shared together in the past, including I've been interviewed by Jillian with these same questions for Beauty Project number 1.0. And so I'm delighted to be here today asking Jillian these questions in reverse and giving her an opportunity to share her heart and her deep, authentic self and her vision for the beauty industry. So it's my joy to invite you, Jillian, and invite our audience to listen to what you have to say. And it would be a wonderful starting point to know, first of all, we're living in a really interesting time. This is an interesting season. How are you doing, really?
Thanks for asking, Karen, and welcome to the Beauty Project. Welcome back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how am I doing? I'm doing pretty good. I definitely feel like I'm going through the ups and downs of it all. Good one day, little rough another day. In those rough days, I definitely do a lot of reflecting on what's my purpose, why am I here right now, why was I born into this time period, and honestly, I just keep coming back to the Beauty Project, and I'm just starting to get back into it, and it's really exciting. It's definitely something that gives me that passion and happiness and excitement. Just telling people about it gives me joy. So I think ultimately right now I'm really good. All things considered, I'm in a really good place. So I'm doing good.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
Thanks
love
for
the fact that this has been continuing to just marinate, and then it found its rebirth during a season when we can go deep, because here we are at home trying to connect on the internet and thinking about things that are really meaningful, and I know this is a super meaningful topic for you.
yeah.
So tell the audience who you are and where you work and what your connection is to the beauty industry.
Yeah. Well, my name's Jillian, and I grew up in a small town, Turkey, California, and I knew I wanted to do hair when I was in 7th grade. I made a declaration just saying I'm going to beauty school, and that was that. I had always played with my friends' hair and doll's hair, my own hair, all sorts of crazy stuff going on in the bedroom, and I just started. I was licensed with a job at 19 and explored around lots of different salons. And inside of that, there's been a lot of frustration. I've learned a ton from lots of stylists, but also just like a lot of frustration of just like who I am in the industry, what the industry is, how do I show up in it, how other people show up in it. And I remember when I was little, I learned to just like ask questions and how important it was to ask questions. And that's kind of always stayed with me. And so I think that's what's carrying this project is I'm curious about this industry and it's something I'm so passionate about. So why not ask questions in it? As for my job right now is I'm not working in a salon, and I think that that's a huge piece that's kind of opened this back up for me. I left working in a salon in Santa Cruz, California, back in September. It's June now. And so I just have some time away from it. And it was really difficult trying to make that decision to leave my clientele that I spent so long building. And just, it's on one hand devastating that I was deciding to do that, but then also like this like thing inside my heart was just like this like pull of like, go, adventure, travel now. You can rebuild your clientele wherever you want, anytime you want. So I just listened to that, and I'm so grateful I did, Karen. You know, if I hadn't gone and done that and I was still at the salon, I think I would be really sad having been in lockdown and, you know, listening to my friends' stories. So I'm just hanging out right now.
Well, I think it's super precious that you've had this little space, this little breathing time, a pause, um, since being in a salon. It's like you're not inundated with the daily activity and you have time to kind of clear your head some more, as you like to do. Because as long as I've known you, you've been interested in exactly what you said, which is asking questions, going deep, and really going under the surface of any given situation to see, like, what's the real meaning? Like you were saying about your own self, why are you here? Why are you here right now? I love that question. It makes me ask, why am I here for this time, in this time? So of the questions that you've asked yourself, what's your answer to your own question? What is the beauty industry to me? How do you answer that?
It's it's so funny being on this side of it because I don't really know. It's like there's so many different layers to the beauty industry. Like there's that like in person, face to face, doing that person's hair or doing that person's nails or whatever you're doing, like that connection. And then there's the next connection of the entire salon you're working with. Like that's this whole other layer and dynamic. And then it gets bigger, right? Like as industries does, as connection does, but right, like you're working on all the way out. And so it's like you go to like these hair conventions and there's all these other people that do hair and they're having a similar experience to you in a salon somewhere else. And then it gets bigger and bigger. And there's companies like Kevin Murphy and Aveda and so on and so forth of like they're impacting the beauty industry that impacts the world. And so I don't really know what it is. Like there's so many multiple dimensions to it, and it's fascinating to me.
So it sounds like it's really, really layered. And I'm curious to know what inspired you to get into it. You may have changed your mind over the years or your perspective may have shifted, but originally, what did you envision that it was and what drew you to want to be in it in the first place?
Yeah, I love that question because like it goes back to just like this deep sense of knowing who I was and I am, knowing who I am. And I just think that's so cool because when I look back at, you know, pictures of me in kindergarten, I was like 5 years old and I had like all these little ponytails in my hair and braids and all sorts of stuff. And like I did all of that. And I was 5 years old. Like I didn't know what was happening. And then, you know, my cousin's girlfriend at the time taught, let's see, I was in fourth grade. She taught me how to French braid. And I don't know, I just ran with it. And then I taught myself how to do all these other braids. And then years, you know, a few years later, it's like seventh grade. I think we were taking a course on careers. And I don't remember what the course was or like what I learned or anything, but I remember in that course getting that declaration of I'm going to be a hairstylist. And a really beautiful part of that whole story was my parents just being so supportive of whatever I wanted to be and whatever I wanted to do. They've always been like, absolutely, like you I can see you being a hairstylist. Yeah, let's do this. So I'd say that's like the short, long version of my inspiration.
What impact has it had on you being in the beauty industry? How has it shaped your image of yourself, your own self-esteem? Has it shifted where you started from to where you are now? Has it been a challenge to your self-esteem? Has it built up your self-esteem?
All of the above, Karen. Oh my goodness. It's, being in high school, I remember I was 15, just really struggling with my body and anorexia, and just my self-esteem and how I viewed myself. And there was other things happening in my life, but I kind of just like cling to that, right? Like that was like this huge thing of how I viewed myself. And then that's, stayed with me on some level, one way or another. And then entering the beauty industry, going to hair school. And hair school is not an easy thing. Like I just thought like, oh, I'm going to go learn how to do hair. Then I'm going to do that. And hair school, there's all sorts of self-esteem issues that are happening up in there. And it triggers it within yourself, seeing it inside of other people. And it's devastating on one hand. And then if you can muster up enough courage and inspiration, you can let it like positively impact you. That's what it did for me. And like really like looking at it as, wow, this is something I really struggle with, but I'm really drawn to doing hair. So where do I fit into this? And, I think that's kind of how that's like been impacting me, like this like, internal struggle, yet it's this path to my voice and my path to this like platform that I'm building. And then taking it a second further, like a step further, of once I built my clientele and my joy and positivity inside the salon got to impact so many people. And so it impacted me in this great way, and I get to move that and push that forward.
You mentioned something in passing that's really significant, anorexia, which is probably a whole like story in itself. And I'm wondering in this context, like how does a person who struggles with anorexia and is immersed in body image industry, I mean, I think of the beauty industry as being all about body image, and I know you have visions for and experiences with it being something greater than just an emphasis on appearance.
Mm-hmm.
But would you like to share anything more about your struggle with anorexia and how that was impacted by being involved in the beauty industry, how it may have helped or hindered?
I think it ultimately has helped. I would say, relatively speaking, it really wasn't that bad, but I definitely would not allow myself to eat for a bit. And the mental control over that, and I don't know, it's hard to answer that question. Like, how has that really affected me? I don't know. And it's fascinating that I have ended up in such an industry, but like kind of what I was saying is like it has helped me. Like it's given me this big perspective. And really, I guess now that I'm kind of talking through it, it's like it's offered me some empathy for people that struggle with body image and self-esteem and just stuff like that.
So looking back, what do you recall, or currently, how do you feel about the media's role in the fashion industry, fashion magazines, and media's take on the beauty industry. How does that impact you?
Yeah, in middle school, I would literally take magazines and rip out the images that I liked, and I'm not joking. Every inch of my walls was covered. Like, you saw no white whatsoever.
Wow.
On the ceiling, down to the bottom, on all my doors, completely covered with magazines. And
What sorts of images? How would you describe the images that were shaping you?
yeah,
These are your mentors in a way. The
yeah,
images that were inspiring you. What were they like?
really artful. I feel like most of them were art, like pieces of art. Um, like I guess I'm just remembering like being drawn to a lot of shapes and colors. And whenever I would think one's cool, it's like, oh, that's such a cool image. I'm gonna look at that every day. And now looking back, I guess more than 10 years, it's like, whoa. I immersed myself in the beauty industry without even knowing it every single day in my room.
Do you?
And
Oh, go ahead.
what was that? And now, what's so funny about that? Like, I don't pick up magazines. Like, I don't really, like, I can't do it. And maybe I got overloaded on it. Maybe I saw it for, this is my opinion, for what it really is. uh, but yeah, it was, what a fascinating thing. So it deeply affected me. I was surrounded by the magazine fashion industry on a large scale.
Literally, it was like your wallpaper.
Yep.
So, do you think of your clients now as, or your work? I don't mean this in a negative objectification way, but do you think of what you do as creating art?
Oh, absolutely, Karen. It's so cool. It's like there's so many levels to doing someone's hair. Like, one, you're having a conversation with someone while you're touching their head, and there's so much trust that goes on with that. And then you're also running a business in that. And so to bring it to your point of it being art, is it is a piece of art. Like, just doing a haircut, like, that person is going to wear that art piece out into the world. I take this very seriously. Like, they they they're wearing your art out into the world for everyone to see. And if you do a good haircut, there's going to be that impact, and then how they feel. If you do a not so good haircut, that's going to have an impact of how they feel and how the world perceives it. And ultimately comes back to you as a stylist. It's a lot of pressure.
Yes, I can imagine. I know I have been the recipient. I have been the art that you have created. Having a haircut. I remember you came once to my dock and cut my hair right there on the dock, and we just swept it into the water, and it became one with the ocean. And how special it felt to have that connection with you. And because you're so intentional, Jillian, you put a lot into your haircuts, and you let your clients feel the generosity of the spirit that's going into it. It's not just shears, scissors, and it's not just skill from training, but it's the you that is behind it, that's wanting to bless and shape and create beauty and create art. And I remember one time I showed up an event at the home of someone whose hair you had just cut, and this gentleman was being showered by compliments at that gathering, and you were there beaming on the side, I think,
Oh.
if I remember correctly, that I don't know what you were feeling. I can't put words in your mouth, but it was so wonderful because we kept turning to him and saying, wow, you look like a new man. And then we kept turning to him and saying, wow, you look like a new man. And we kept turning to you and saying, wow, what a gift. And I remember his partner was like, thanking you. Because he did look like a new man and he even carried himself like a new man. And I got to see right before my very eyes someone that I had just seen like the day before looking one way and now looking radically different and acting like a, and freshly energized. You know, he was our same old lovable guy that we cared about, and yet he felt and looked freshly energized by your touch. It was really a precious thing to get to see. So I can't resist sharing that. So given that you bring all of this, I feel like it's extra, but maybe it shouldn't be extra. And maybe a lot of hairstylists and beauty industry people do carry this with them. But how do you think that it impacts the industry that you have this high standard, this high offering that you bring? How do you think you have impacted the industry? And or how would you like to further impact the industry?
Yeah, it's it's so funny to reflect on that one too, because like I don't really know the big ripple effect that I've had. I can imagine. I can go off of the I guess essential praise that I've been given. Um, you know, the salon that I was working in really enjoyed my company there, and just that feedback felt really good. It was a really big deal that I left. Um, so it's like looking back on, it's like, well, I must have made a special impact on them, just as my personality and being a good hairstylist. But then the clients, you know, creating a safe place and space for them to share with me. And, you know, being a young stylist, I didn't really experience up until about a year before I left that, oh, you're the hair therapist, what is it, like a I don't
A
know,
therapist?
therapist, there you go, that's what I was
Hair
trying to go
therapist.
for. Yeah, right, like I didn't really
Hair therapy.
experience that because I was learning how to do hair, I was learning how to run the business, I was learning so much, so it wasn't like I was having like really in-depth conversations and holding space. But then that last year I really started to build that clientele and that trust, and oh man, it's incredible, the opportunity to create a space that people will share big vulnerable secrets essentially, while you're touching them, you're touching their head, and like I don't take that lightly either. That is a very, very sacred thing we get to do. And so like the impact that I feel like I've had is creating that space and just being a sounding board for people. And then this project, you know, like I interviewed 50 people a couple years ago, and I don't really know the impact that had, but I know it had some. And to bring it to the future, like what kind of impact would I like to have? Giving a platform for people to share their journey and their voice of the beauty industry, shedding light on the joys of the industry, the struggles, the hardships, the things that are messed up. Like I want to talk about those things. I want to bring it out. I want to have those conversations. And so that's my intention really with this project, is I would really love to have a positive impact with the beauty project.
Of course, every client is different. And so depending on the kind of connection that you have and the kind of relationship you have with them, if any, outside of that chair, you may have more or less freedom to encourage uh, the super deep levels of sharing that you're talking about. But I just want to speak to, as someone who has sat in your chair in more than one setting. I've done it at my dock, I've done it in the salon with you. You do have a really special vision for connection, deep connection, authentic connection, soul stirring connection with your clients. And the touch that you're talking about, the physical, literal touch, is also a figurative one, because you're inviting and freeing people to be able to be really authentic with you while they're undergoing an outward transformation. And I remember sitting in the chair the last time that we did this, before you moved and before I moved, because neither one of us lives where we used to live. And just saying, I want to set an intention for this transformation, and I want it to mean something. I want it to have some significance. And I'm using this to like call in new levels of freshness in my life, as we trimmed up my hair and changed a few things up a little bit. And you like held space for me to be able to do that, and and reflected. And I love the fact that your time with your client can include and incorporate, if it's consensual and welcomed by your client, it can include an opportunity to set an intention, to call in something new, to make a declaration, to maybe even purge something old as it falls onto the floor, and invite in something new as it takes on a new shape. I just think it's such a physiological like manifestation of something that can be going on internally, and you are a wonderful person to do that with. So I want to affirm that, and just give a shout out to like other clinicians and cosmetologists who have that desire and are practicing that. And I like to say exploiting the opportunity in a good way, exploiting the opportunity to be a blessing, and to add layers of meaning and meaningfulness onto what might otherwise be just an ordinary task. And I commend you for what you are doing for the industry, and encourage others to follow your example.
Thanks, Karen. That means a lot.
Um, trying to get outside of your position inside the industry, how do you think other people outside the industry view the beauty industry?
Yeah, I feel like it kind of contradicts itself the way I see that, because I see a lot of people saying how much the hairstylist means to them, and how they can tell them everything and anything, and exactly what we just talked about, right? And then there's this weird thing inside me that I don't know exactly where it comes from, of this judgment of, oh, you just do hair. Oh, you just went to beauty school. Like, you're not smart. Oh, you didn't go to college. Oh, I think that a lot of us have that. And unfortunately, it causes a lot of insecurity in myself, in, some friends that are hairstylists that I've had this conversation with. And it's something that we, make or break you, right? And it's sad to me that view is there. And it's an obstacle that we must overcome if we really believe in this industry and want to make our name for ourselves and stand up for it. And so maybe that's why that's there, is for us to really like say, no, that's not what this is about. It's not just hair. It wasn't just hair when, I cut your kids' hair on the first day of school. Like it wasn't just hair for your wedding. It wasn't just hair, when, you found out that you had cancer, right? Like we're those lights, like, to hold that. And so, yeah, it's my view of people's view is it contradicts itself. And it's sad to me. And I that's a huge driving force of this project, to just shed that light of, like, it's not just hair.
I think it is a really beautiful, an amazing thing to think of all those scenarios that you just mentioned, like weddings, first day of school, cancer, people donating their hair, cutting it off because they know it's going to be shaved, it's going to fall off anyway, it's going to fall out. All of those kinds of things that are behind people getting a haircut. So when you are a part of a person's story and you've become like part of the fabric of the first day of school or the wedding or the cancer story or whatever, you have value that I would think would really build a sense of self-respect. You in the beauty industry, anyone who has had that role could really just chalk that up as like, yes, I have significance. And to carry yourself with the kind of self-respect that says, whether or not anyone else knows this, I know I am a part of people's stories. But sharing like this is really special. I think it would be really precious somehow for more people to think about cosmetologists this way, especially conscious, intentional cosmetologists who are practicing this kind of in like engagement with their clients, where your life is becoming intertwined in some special ways and times in their journey. And I think that it would be a really sweet thing to find a way to share. I'm not sure exactly how, but even if it was like something going on the wall next to your chair, like, I've been a part of these, picture with on the wedding day, the first day of school, and cancer. I don't know, you know what I mean? It's an awareness raiser to sit there and realize, right, people don't just come here to get their hair trimmed. Like, this is where people's lives are shaped, not just their hair is shaped here.
Yeah.
Do you think that anything has shifted as a result of the lockdown in people's perception or appreciation of the beauty industry?
It's tough for me to know. I'm not actively doing hair right now, and as we talked about, and a lot of my friends haven't gone back yet. A lot of people were starting this week. Actually, my old salon opened back up yesterday, so I haven't talked to them yet. However, the impact that it had when the shutdown happened, like, I'm just shocked and blown away by that people were protesting that they needed a haircut, right? There's so many things that I feel about that, but I think that right there shows our significance. Whether or not they were right to be protesting that, I don't know. There's so many levels and layers to that topic, but gosh, just imagining that, like, people are standing out on the street saying that they want a haircut, that alone says so much about our industry and what it does for people's self-esteem, and people that are struggling with being locked in a house with who knows who, experiencing who knows what. And that sense of just getting your hair done, imagining getting your hair done, what that would feel like is what I imagine a sense of relief and an escape from whatever could be happening in their home. And yeah, so that's how I view that, and the lockdown really really impacted, I mean, the whole world and the industry itself, just seeing my salon friends create GoFundMe's so they could pay rent, and like that alone. And then what about their stylists? And this huge this huge traumatic thing just happened to our industry, and I want to talk about it. And I don't really know how it's impacted us, other than on like a financial level. I can only imagine. And then people wanting haircuts and people wanting to get that feel good feeling when this traumatic thing is happening.
It certainly seems like the appreciation level has gone up in a number of industries that might have previously been underappreciated or undervalued, as you were saying, in terms of, oh, well, it didn't require the same kind of college education, so therefore we think of it this way. And yet look how much people want and need to have that connection with someone who can uplift their appearance. We really rely on you. We really do. And I think there's certainly a heightened awareness of that now.
Absolutely.
What do you hope might change, or what do you think people have wrong that you'd like to get them, you'd like them to get it right or to understand about the beauty industry, either as a result of the lockdown or just in general?
I think that my biggest thing that I want people to know about the industry is how much so much of us are supposed to be hairstylists. Like, we're meant to do this, and to not bring us down for that.
So, in addition to the shutdown that's going on, we also have this movement, this uprising of heightened awareness about Black lives. And I'm curious what your take is on that as a white hairdresser. What was your education on caring for Black or ethnic hair? And how do you see yourself engaging in the midst of that movement?
Yeah, Karen, I had zero education on ethnic hair, Black hair, and I'm really disappointed in that. And I could point the finger at my school and say they didn't teach me anything. I could point the finger at my small little town that I've lived in, not offering that, not having the population to do Black and ethnic hair. And there's my own responsibility in that. And our clientele hasn't been that. I've never worked in a salon that has that sort of clientele, and so it never really was on the surface of me needing to learn or wanting to learn. And it's such a humbling experience for me to be in right now. Is like, I literally have zero education on how to do Black and ethnic hair. I have no idea. And it's a whole different ballgame. And as, I guess, sad I am to say that to you, it's my honest, vulnerable truth. And that's a huge driving point for this as well. Like, I want to talk to hairstylists that have been educated and that are Black hairstylists, and really any sort of ethnicity that wants to have this conversation. Like, teach me, educate me. I want to learn. And I want to hear their story. And so, yeah, I'm pretty sad about it, honestly. And I think that education isn't just in the hair school. I think it's, it goes on many levels. And I recognize that, and I acknowledge it, and I want to be a part of the movement that's making change. And when all the riots were starting, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know where I fit into this. You know, I'm in this little cabin up in the woods. Do I go down to the big city and protest? What do I do? And this movement of me doing this project was already started. One of my mentors mentioned Black Lives Matter. Like, what about that, Jillian? And I was like, oh my gosh, of course, that's where I fit into it. Yeah.
So as you think about the perception that people have in general, you've made mention about how sometimes you think there isn't the recognition of the training that you've done and the mission, the sense of call that you certainly identify with. And the fact that this is like a heart passion for you. It's a form of art making. It's a deep means of connection. It's therapy. It's hair therapy. It's a way of being involved in helping shape people's lives and marking like landmark events in their lives. There's so many things that might not be understood. I mean, I'm thinking about that for myself as I'm listening to you. We could ask the question, how do people perceive you incorrectly? What do they have wrong about the beauty industry? Or we could say, how would you like people to perceive the beauty industry? Or what do you want people to know about what it's like for you to be in the beauty industry?
Yeah, I think my big stand is that we're smart, we're brilliant, we're creative. We're just badasses, right? Like all the woo! All the hairstylists I know and I'm friends with, oh my gosh, like they need to be honored, they need to be celebrated. Like they are doing a community service, really, and showing up for community. And the amount of work, the compassion, the empathy, the amount of drive that we have to have as hairstylists, like I want people to honor that and really respect that. And I want that us not being smart and not being good enough for college to disappear and be a thing of the past. Yeah, I want to be celebrated.
What was school like for you? Not beauty school, but school in preparation for life, the school that we all have to go through. How were you as a student? Was that your thing? Was it tough for you? Did you have any learning challenges?
I love that you're asking me this. For those of you listening, Karen is a teacher.
Right, I work with dyslexic students, and I know that a lot of my dyslexic students are highly creative hairstylist folks.
Totally, yeah. I mean, I struggled with reading. I remember struggling with reading in elementary school. My mom had to bribe me with American Girl dolls to get a tutor. And in middle school, I think I totally crushed it in middle school. I remember math started being hard, but reading and English, that I think that ended up being fine, which is definitely more my brain now. Math and science started kind of like going down in middle school. And then high school, this is also important. I was also a total teacher's pet. Both my parents are teachers. And so I don't know the impact that really had, but I definitely, like, I was involved. I wanted to do well. And then high school, I was so wrapped up in my own personal struggles of just being a human being. My like schoolwork always was done, but I hated it. Like absolutely hated high school. But that was like due to more of the social stuff.
Mhm. So did it feel to you like hairstyling school was the fit, the kind of school you really enjoyed, or was that full of challenges of its own?
Oh, I hated beauty school. Um, the best, the best thing, if I'm being honest, the best things that I got from beauty school were some lifelong friends. Like I've got probably like 5 solid friends that I will probably have for the rest of my life that we went to hair
Sweet.
school with and with
Oh,
each other, and that's all. I treasure that. As for the education itself, the whole system was totally messed up. The school itself was pretty messed up. And I hear that from every hairstylist. I mean, I'm sure there's people that had a good experience, but not a lot of us did.
what does that mean that it was messed up? What was wrong with it, and what would you change?
Yeah, the leadership. I'd say the leadership starting from the top, like the director just, I don't know what it was, but it seemed like her passion for doing hair and what she was doing did not exist. Like it seemed like she was just in it for a job. And then that kind of trickled down. And to me, like that's really, really sad because my entire lifelong dream was to go to beauty school and become a hairstylist. And so then getting into that school, doing the work wasn't inspiring. Like it was just like, just get your hours to pass the state board and then really learn how to do hair.
Hmm.
And it's so sad that that's how so many of us start out.
So it's like you were jumping through hoops, and then the real learning on the job is where you really developed your skills.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you ever think about starting your own training program, mentoring younger girls or boys or individuals who are interested in that sort of thing?
Um, no, Karen, I
Your
don't.
philosophy behind it?
I love that that even is coming up in this because I remember my graduation for beauty school. It was not like anyone was ever giving a speech at that, but I made a point that I needed to, and I stood in front of my entire school and read a speech. It was probably like 7 minutes long.
Wow.
Talking about my process of what I just went through in beauty school and thanking everyone. And at the end of it, I was like, I never want to set foot in a beauty school ever again. And and also when I was like praising my instructors, it was like, I don't know how you do this.
Wow.
And so why I say that is because, oh gosh, maybe back in November ish, it was in this past year after I had quit, my mom was like, Jillian, what about being a beauty school instructor? Like you actually could make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hard no, pass.
PTSD.
Absolutely not. And you know what? It's kind of stayed with me. And who knows where that's going to lead me and this project and, all of those things. But it's kind of started to shift because I'm so like not for the system of it now. So maybe somewhere down the line, I could have a big impact in changing it, and what you're saying, like the philosophy, putting more philosophy in it.
Yes. You might have to pay your dues and start out as the rookie instructor, but with a little bit of time and the credibility of people seeing your skill and your vision, I could envision you having your own like course where you come to Jillian to learn how to really connect while having an amazing impact on the person's physical appearance. you're also impacting their heart. Oh my gosh, I could picture a whole course just coming out of that, and you rising up in the ranks as a lead instructor, as a, as a supervisor, as who knows, the head of the place retires and they need a replacement. And you were talking about the trickle down, and I think that's true in any kind of a training institute. Every system has their trickle down, and so many systems need to be fixed. And one possible solution for any system getting fixed is starting at the head. And I just could envision, I'm just indulging myself in this vision of you being, of slowly rising to the top and gaining the experience and the credibility to be able to step into really formal leadership and authority roles where you pass the baton to other up and coming instructors who will walk out onto that stage to receive their diploma or whatever they get, and their speeches are going to look like, I learned how to connect with people's bodies and hearts because of Jillian. Ooh. Well, should that time ever come, we talked about it here. I love that your mom suggested it. Who knows what happens when we marinate in ideas, and if the time is right, and that's what you're supposed to do, and that's what you feel the call to do, I'm sure you'll know, and there's no doubt in my mind that you will make an impact. But you will make an impact no matter what you do, because you can't help it. That's who you are.
Thanks.
We've just talked about the future. Do you have any other things that you're looking forward to in the future, in your career, or as we move forward in this uncertainty of life? Do you have other ideas for your industry or things that are percolating?
I think this is my big thing right now. Just sitting here and listening to other hairstylists and knowing me, I will get another seed of something else and it'll blossom into whatever that is, and I know I'll trust that. And so this is my big thing, Karen. I don't know. I want to do hair again. I want to work in another salon, and wherever that may be. I don't know yet, and I'm letting that be okay. For a while I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to figure it out, and this is what is alive in me right now. So that's my big thing. It's just let this be alive and see where it takes me.
Yes. I affirm and reflect to you that you are rippling out just by doing what is alive in you and acting on it, letting it simmer until the time was right, and then rebirthing this project, and being a catalyst to inspire others to birth their own projects in whatever their area or their discipline is. People in your own industry, people outside of your own industry, me in my industry as a dyslexia reading specialist, wanting to be the best and most impactful catalyst for change that I can be, rubbing screens with other people who want that for their own industry is incredibly enlivening and refreshing. And so I witness you, my friend, as someone who desires to make a change and who carries both humility and boldness together and is willing to act on your ideas. Bless you for acting on this project, Beauty Project 2.0, and may it go on to have ripples we can't even dream of today. I look forward to hearing more about where this goes.
Thanks, Karen. Appreciate you so much.
My pleasure.